Did you see how aggressive Serena Williams acted when she destroyed her tennis racket on pitch?
Actually, Serena's behaviour was not aggressive, and people commonly misinterpret certain behaviours as aggressive when they're really not. According to Bull in 1990, the definition for aggression is any behaviour that is intended to harm another person by physical or verbal means. This suggests that the main goal of aggression is to harm another person. Therefore, Serena smashing her racket would not have been aggression, as the main goal of her actions were not to harm towards her opponent or another individual, but maybe it was due to frustration. Aggression is a form of behaviour which is intentional, meaning that someone cannot be accidentally aggressive and incidentally cause harm towards someone else. For example, in football, the goalkeeper for Iceland, Rajakovic, and the French player Mbappe got into a physical and verbal fight when Rakovic intentionally pushed and yelled at Mbappe. This would be an example of aggression because the main goal of this was to harm Mbappe when he fell to the floor and through his verbal actions.
Athletes being told to act in a more aggressive manner. Why are athletes?
Some people, including coaches and the sports people themselves, tell players to become more aggressive when they really mean to act more assertive. Coaches ask athletes to show aggression. They are in fact seeking assertive behaviour, which Connolly in 1988 states. People often confuse assertive behaviour as aggression. Assertion is known as channeled aggression and is when someone acts within the rules of the game in order to obtain a certain purpose without intending harm, while making their presence known and giving 100% effort. Often this involves a robust, forceful action in order to complete the skills necessary, for example a tackle in rugby. With tackles, unfortunately sometimes the players do become injured from the tackle, although the tackle was legal, within the rules of the game, and there was no intent to harm the player. The main purpose for the tackle is for your team to be in possession of the ball and not to harm the player, so a sporting advantage. One definition of assertive behaviour is that it can improve performance and is where a player will play within the rules of the sport at a very high intensity but will have no intent to harm an opponent, which is Bredemiri, 1994. Assertion is also frequently associated with aggression, but is accepted and often encouraged in sport as it is defined as a legitimate force without intent to harm and usually involves a heightened level of effort, which Sylvia in 1999 cited in Cox in 2007. Lastly, Lange and Jakubowski in 1976 also highlighted this lack of differentiation, as their study indicated that some people mistake assertiveness for rudeness or even aggression.
What if someone performs a tackle trying to get the ball but injured a player? Would that be considered as aggression?
Well, yes and no. Silva in 1983 stated that in sport there are two categories of aggression, one being hostile aggression and the other instrumental aggression. Todd Thatcher and Radman in 2010 state that hostile aggression has harmful intent without the desire to achieve a competition benefit. This means that for the primary goal it is to harm the other player. Hostile aggression is fueled by anger and is not within the rules. For example, in football, if a player punches another player, this would be considered hostile aggression because the main purpose of the punch was to harm the other person and it was not to achieve a sporting outcome. A tackle would not be considered as hostile aggression unless a player illegally tackled a player when they didn't have the ball and that the main purpose of it was to harm another player because they did the tackle to steal because they didn't do the tackle to steal the ball. So there is no sporting there is no sporting benefit. As mentioned before, hostile aggression is fueled by anger, and therefore some motivation for hostile aggression can be to harm the opponent, to inflict injury, or because they're not playing by the rules of the game. It is also likely that hostile aggression can be reactive aggression, which is where it's a reaction to an emotional situation. For example, an unfairly given free kick in football. Instrumental aggression is slightly different to hostile aggression by the fact that the primary goal of instrumental aggression is to achieve a sporting outcome. One definition of aggression by Todd, Thatcher and Rachman in 2010 is someone who holds focus on completing a competitive goal through harmful means. Instrumental aggression is displaying aggressive behaviour in pursuit of non-aggressive goals. This means that the aggression is goal-orientated, does not comply to the rules of the game, and are intended to harm. An example of instrumental aggression could be a tackle in football. The main purpose of the tackle is to take possession of the ball, therefore a sporting outcome. However, the player knows that the tackle is likely and intends for it to hurt the person at the same time, which is against the rules, but goes ahead with it anyway. Lastly, Wiggins, James et al. In 2006 state that it is important to realise that acts of aggression may be interpreted differently depending on the nature of the sport. Sanctioned aggression is where someone aims to harm someone, however, what they do is within the rules of the game. For example, in boxing, the physical punching is vital to the sport and is intended to harm, however, it is allowed in the rules of the game, whereas punching someone in basketball is unacceptable and against the rules. Tenenbaum et al. In 1997 and McLevy and Stout in 2002 found that football and rugby have been identified as more likely to trigger aggression off and on the pitch due to the contact nature of the sport and the popularity, and therefore pressure of the sport. Colomb and Pfister in 1998 conducted a study looking at aggression in high-level sports. They found that the most experienced athletes used more instrumental aggression and hostile aggression was rarely used, as they experienced athletes use more self-control to help them from using hostile aggression.
What causes these athletes to become aggressive?
There are many factors that could lead to aggression in sports. One factor would be an actual or perceived unfairness during a game or match. This would be where a referee calls an unfair penalty in football or contact in netball. This could lead to a build-up of anger, which the players then release through aggression. Another factor leading to aggression could be due to the pressure to win, where a particular team in basketball is favoured to win their last game of the season and then become aggressive due to fear of loss, which leads on to frustration at a poor performance or losing a match. Say this basketball team were losing, then players may become more aggressive as they feel as though it is the last resort to win, or because they are angry at the other team are playing better and become jealous, so want to harm the opposite team players. It is also likely that one's home life can also affect and lead to aggression. For example, if someone is having family problems, it may reflect on them when playing sports, or they may release a build-up of anger from the family problems and take it out on someone on the opposing team. Previous ill feeling between two teams may also result in aggressive behaviour, as they may not trust each other or want revenge payback or previous issues. It is also possible that athletes act aggressively because that's what they want. Because that is what they have learnt from a role model or coach. Many people have grown up watching their idol act aggressively, and then they act more aggressive when they usually mean more assertive. This could lead to someone replaying this behaviour in a game. Lastly, is the nature of the sport. In boxing, the sport relies on players fighting each other and trying to harm them. Although this is in the rules, it is a type of aggression, being sanctioned aggression.
Is someone naturally aggressive, or do they learn the behaviour?
There are four theories that suggest how one becomes aggressive. These are the trait theory, the social learning theory, the frustration-aggression hypothesis, and the aggression cue hypothesis. Firstly, the trait theory was explained by Freud in 1920 and then later developed by Lorenz in 1966. This theory suggests that a person's instincts to be aggressive or sexual are innate and comes from one's genetics, suggesting that they inherit aggressive traits from birth. This theory also suggests that every person has a trait of violence within them, which builds up over time until it has to be expressed. The catharsis theory also argues that aggression is a natural and intuitive motivation, which has compelling need for release through physical action within a controlled environment. Bushman et al., 1999. There are two ways in which anger can be expressed. For example, a football player is becoming frustrated on pitch due to a foul tackle that was misidentified by a referee. This build-up of anger and frustration can either be displaced and released as, for example, a scream, kicking a football really hard, or punching something like a punching bag, as it is not aggressive because it does not intend to harm anyone. The footballer can displace his anger through playing the game itself by working harder to release the anger. This is more socially acceptable and is known as catharsis. Anger can also be expressed in a less socially acceptable way. For example, the football player can then become too angry and may attack someone on the opposing team by punching or kicking them, or they may perform illegal tackles with the main purpose to receive the ball, but also knowing that it will harm the other player. This is known as aggression. Berkowitz in 1972 found that levels of aggression tend to increase in sport and does not decrease as Freud suggested, meaning that sport cannot be used as a way to release anger when it actually builds it up. There is also no innate aggressive characteristics that have been found to suggest that we are born with aggression, or that there is no support or evidence for catharsis. Sorry if I'm pronouncing these words wrong. This theory also suggests that trait cannot change, meaning that someone will have the same amount of aggression and it will not change. However, aggressive athletes don't show the same aggression traits in society when away from their sports. For example, a footballer may act aggressively on the pitch, but when he is away from the court, he does not show signs of aggression. Also, it's more likely that aggressive behaviour is learnt and is linked to culture, not just being born with it. Another theory of aggression is Bandura's 1966 social learning theory. This theory suggests that all behaviour is learned. It suggests that all behaviour is learned and then applied to everyday life, and that the behaviour is then nurtured through the